Nintendo loves to take some of the most wholesome, lovable characters you've ever seen and make them walk through all 9 circles of hell. Seriously, between characters like Kirby and Mario, the Nintendo mascots have endured more cosmic horror than even Lovecraft would have put out. Unsurprisingly, Link is certainly no exception to this. This poor kid witnesses more atrocities in an afternoon than most people do in their entire lives. Even still, there are versions of this character who have had it infinitely worse than others. So today, we're going to answer definitively which one truly had it the worst. This question should be really straightforward to answer. All we need to do is figure out how many Links there are, assess what each of them went through, and then assign some sort of value to the difficulty they endured. Without further ado, let's get started. There are 13 different Links in the series, and we are going to go through from easiest to most difficult and traumatizing journeys that each of these guys go through. In dead last, we have the hero from Four Swords. I can't find what his actual hero title is, so we're just gonna call him John. John accompanies Zelda to check the seal on the Four Sword, when they are subsequently pranked by Vati, who takes Zelda for reasons and runs off to his palace. Then John pulls the Four Swords, splits into 4 Johns, and goes on his adventure. One of the main reasons John is lowest on this list is the fact that at no point is he figuring things out by himself. He has 3 extra versions of himself to take on baddies and face the quest ahead. Additionally, the quest isn't that hard. All it takes is 3 bosses and a bunch of rupees before being allowed into the Wind Palace, where John endures a fairly simple confrontation with Vati. That's it, mission over. I certainly couldn't do this, but compared to the other contenders, this is the simplest quest Link is set on in the series. In 12th place, we have the Hero of the Minish. The difficulty for the Hero of the Minish is definitely ramping up, with 5 different bosses that he needs to defeat before facing a much more intimidating Vati. Additionally, he is tasked with creating the Four Sword and undoing a curse placed on Zelda. The main reason the Hero of the Minish is so low on the list is because this entire game is heavily implied to take place in a single day. You can watch school start and finish, the library is open later in the day, and we are told that the door to the Four Sword Sanctuary only opens once every 100 years, which is why the Picori Festival is taking place at all. Obviously, you can argue against this point since there isn't any official statement, but considering that the townspeople never even noticed there was a problem in Hyrule Castle, shows how unproblematic this game is. These 2 heroes are pretty clearly on the bottom of the list, but from here on out, it gets increasingly difficult to rank how challenging the journeys of each hero are. In 11th place, we have the Hero of Trains. I know it's popular to trash on Spirit Tracks, and honestly, for good reason, but I'm going to be fairly lenient with this Link. He basically watches Zelda die in front of him, and then proceeds to see her body puppeted around by a demon. It's already pretty brutal, and that's before he makes his way to the Demon Realm to fight Maladus. It's not an easy journey, but he has fierce competition with the other Links. The fact that this is an isolated game and he never faces enemies that are incredibly powerful is enough to land him lower than many of his incarnations. In 10th place, we have the Hero of Light from Four Swords Adventures. The Hero of Light has a pretty similar story to John, but cranked up a few notches. He also wields the Four Sword, and therefore splits into 4 different Links. But now there are added challenges. For starters, the main antagonist in this game is Ganon, who is quite a bit scarier than Vati or Maladus. On top of that, we constantly have Shadow Links coming after us, and we are required to traverse 2 different dimensions in order to progress through this game. Once again, the fact that there are 4 Links to bear this burden makes me think that this is slightly easier to handle than what your average Link goes through. Again, I would get flattened before I even made it out of the Sanctuary, but the competition is hot. In 9th place, we have the Hero of Might from Echoes of Wisdom. This hero is probably the weirdest to rank since we don't actually play as him in the game. Instead, we just gather context of what he endured through the game. We know that he has been trying to close rifts for some time before the game starts, and when the game does start, we see him enter a rift. We don't know exactly what he does while he is in the rifts, but we get clues, like when he beats back Null, who is the opposite of whatever the Golden Goddesses are. I can't imagine that the Hero of Might had an easy go at it, but I cannot in good conscience rank his struggles any higher. We simply need more context. In 8th place, we have what might be a controversial pick, the Hero of the Skies. Now, this is the earliest incarnation of Link that we have seen, and and he does fight the Demon King Demise. I'm not trying to undermine any of his efforts. This Link really does go through it, but he has a couple of things going for him. For starters, he is older than many of the other Links. We start the game at 17. Then he is given a guide with Fi, who is very well informed and is capable of giving him very good instruction. The majority of the path of the Hero of Skies is laid out for him. Find Zelda, enhance the Goddess Sword, find the Triforce. The main difficulty of this quest comes from how powerful the foes are and not how difficult the puzzle is. In 7th place, we have the Hero of Hyrule from Zelda 1 and 2. This is the first hero on our list to experience more than a single adventure, and this obviously increases the magnitude of his burden. In Zelda 1, Link is tasked with reassembling the Triforce of Wisdom and destroying Ganon. He is given basically no additional instruction and just has to figure it out. The enemies he faces are no joke, but he is facing a much weaker version of Ganon than we see in other games. No Master Sword or light arrows required, only silver arrows. Zelda 2 shows this same hero going on a quest to save Zelda the First from her cursed sleep. His failure would result in the resurrection of Ganon, but obviously this doesn't happen. While this game is incredibly difficult, according to the canon, this shouldn't be much more difficult than any other journey. In 6th place, we have the new Hero of Hyrule from A Link Between Worlds and Triforce Heroes. A Link Between Worlds offers a deceptively vast challenge to this hero. Not only must he retread the steps of the Hero of Legend in order to draw the Master Sword and face off against Yuga, but then he is sent to another dimension entirely where he faces off against a fusion between Ganon and Yuga, which claims 2 pieces of the Triforce. He is tricked throughout much of the journey and barely manages to come out on top, even with this insane arsenal of items purchased from Ravio. He also is in Triforce Heroes, which offers a challenge somewhere between Minish Cap and Four Swords Adventures. In a respectable 5th place, we have the Hero of Winds from Wind Waker and Phantom Hourglass. This hero is the epitome of someone who is out of their depth. There is an argument that the Hero of Winds was never meant to be the hero, but stepped up to the plate anyway. We constantly see him take on challenges that were meant for a more powerful person and come out victorious anyway. The main reason I think his journey was so much harder than other Links comes down to Ganondorf. As far as I'm concerned, this might be the scariest version of Ganondorf in the series. He is calm, calculating, and deceptively powerful. It takes Ganondorf a full 5 seconds to disarm Link and retrieve his portion of the Triforce. The Hero of Winds lost his sister and shouldered a burden that was never meant for him. Maybe this would have been easier for one of the stronger Links, but for the Hero of Winds, this was asking too much. Even still, he manages to come out on top. He then steps up again in Phantom Hourglass and defeats a parasitic demon that was infecting the Ocean King. He's also like 12 years old for all of this. In 4th place, we have the Hero of Twilight. There isn't much that goes right for this Link. He loses his friends, loses his body, and he is constantly mocked by the person who is supposed to guide him through his journey. The scale at which the Hero of Twilight seems to be operating is absolutely ludicrous. He is fighting against a world that is completely alien to him, and it corrupts and destroys. Link is tasked with rescuing everyone he ever considered family and gets clowned on by Zant the whole way. This is all ignoring the true antagonist, Ganondorf, who we see tank an executing blow and then return the favor to this poor sage. Not only that, but this game boasts some of the most terrifying bosses in the series. Finally, entering the top 3 most unfortunate heroes, we have the Hero of Legend. This is the definition of someone who just can't catch a break. First, we have A Link to the Past, which is a fairly standard journey for one of these heroes, but definitely on the more difficult end. You can copy paste a lot of what I said about A Link Between Worlds here. Just add on that Ganon is in possession of the full Triforce in this game. After defeating Ganon, Link gets the unique opportunity to embark on a full adventure on Koholint Island, where he makes real friendships with what are apparently fake people. This adventure might technically be a dream, but Link still endures the full challenge and likely lives with the trauma of losing these relationships forever. Even after all of this, we're still not done. The Triforce decides for some reason, that this poor guy has not had enough, and it yeets him over to 2 separate kingdoms where he is expected to solve all of their problems and prevent the return of Ganon. This Link probably does the most out of any other in the series. He endures a total of 40 different dungeons, depending on how you count. That being said, he kinda just kills it the whole time. Aside from Koholint Island, Link doesn't suffer any large personal losses. I would dub this the most successful Link in the series. The last 2 spots have definitely been the most challenging to compare to each other. On one hand, we have the Hero of Time, and on the other, we have the Hero of the Wild. The Hero of Time was robbed of his childhood and forced to shoulder adult responsibility, only to be forced back into the body of a child where he is more or less told to just figure it out. He faces Ganondorf, endures the trauma of losing to Ganondorf, and even then has his success ripped away only to be given the extra responsibility of preventing it all in the first place. This is only talking about Ocarina of Time. In Majora's Mask, Link is faced with the actual end of the world and eldritch abominations. He is living through a nightmare, and all this happens within the span of a couple of years from his perspective. The Hero of the Wild endures similar but different burdens compared to the Hero of Time. It was decided when he was just a child that he would be the hero to prevent the oncoming calamity. He may not have been magically sealed away for 7 years, but in a way, he had his childhood stolen too. Then, when faced with the challenge of the calamity, he was outmaneuvered and fails to stop Calamity Ganon. His failure results in the deaths of almost everyone he ever knew or loved. And then he's tasked with picking up the pieces 100 years later in a ruined kingdom. Then, in Tears of the Kingdom, much of his work is undone once more by Ganondorf, whose seal was broken. Things go slightly better for Link this time around, and he manages to pull through and defeat the Demon King, but once again, this is not a simple journey. Comparing the journeys of these 2 Links is difficult, but in the end, I would have to say that the Hero of the Wild had it harder than the Hero of Time. He suffered greater losses and lived with the consequences of his failures. The Hero of Time endured very unique and personal losses, but I don't think they match up to the Hero of Wild. Let me know if you agree with my placements in the comments, and I'll see you in another video.